Okay, good evening and welcome. It's time to call this special budget workshop and special call board meeting to order. This is a meeting of the San Felipe Del Rio CISD Board of Trustees, today being May 28th, 2024. Mr. Secretary, would you call roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Luna Chavez?
Present.
Mr. Almaraz?
Present.
Mr. Overfeld?
Here.
Mr. Mesa?
Here.
Ms. Guanajuato Webb?
Present.
Ms. Haynes?
Here.
Sir, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that we do have a quorum of board members and that this meeting was duly called in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. At this time, we will have opening ceremonies and we'll do a moment of silence for a teacher that we lost in our district, if the board agrees. Please stand. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance afterwards. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. First item we have on our agenda is revenues and expenditures. Item 3A, Amy Childress.
Good evening, President Mesa, Dr. Rios, and members of the board. This evening, I'm going to review our interactive budget workbook, each of the tabs, and go over a couple changes that we have made in the workbook. The first tab I'm going to start with is our general pay increase tab. And we currently have 3 models that were compiled for us by TASB. The first model represents a 1% increase, which would bring the starting salary for teachers to $55,200 and will provide a 1% general pay increase from the midpoint for all other employees. This estimate would be a cost of $1,194,495 for the district. The second model we have would be a 2% general pay increase. This would bring the starting salary for teachers to $55,800 and would represent a 2% increase to the midpoint for each pay category and would be a total cost of $1,809,506. The third model we have.
Question.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't have since I had my laptop not on site, I don't have my jump drive
Okay.
for this. Is there a way I can drop this onto my computer so I can see what we're looking at? Or does anyone have their jump drive I can borrow right quick? Thank you.
Okay. Sorry.
Good, sir.
Okay.
Okay. And then the third model we have is a 3% general pay increase. This would bring the starting salary for teachers to $56,450 with a 3% increase to the midpoint for all other categories with a cost to the district of $2,467,745. Currently, for this budget purposes, we currently have selected no general pay increase. For the personnel tab, The first option we have is to reduce the budget by reassigning the 7 elementary campus librarians to other teacher vacancies. This would be a savings of $591,882 to the district. The next option would be a reorganization of the fine arts teachers, where we would reassign 6 of the current art and music teachers to teacher vacancies. This would be a savings of $464,083. The next option we have would be to reassign 1 Del Rio Middle School principal to a district vacancy. This would be a savings of $113,541. The next option we have is to reassign the Early College High School assistant principal to a district vacancy. This would be a savings of $113,541. The next option we have is to reassign the curriculum coordinator of instructional technology. This is actually going to be a reassignment. So it would be a savings of $110,183. The next position we have is the LSSP coordinator. They're currently funded through federal funds. They're currently funded through general funds, and we would be moving this to be funded with the federal grant. So it would be a savings of $138,940. The next option would be to reassign the Del Rio Middle School Dean of Instruction. This would be a savings of $74,217. Next, we have 2 maintenance technicians that have resigned, and we will not be filling those. We would like to not fill those vacancies. That would be a savings of $172,312. The next position we have is the PEAMS TSDS coordinator. This would be a reassignment to a district vacancy, and it would be a savings of $108,480. The next option we have is to reassign 3 current bilingual ESL strategists that are paid through a grant that is the ESSER grant that will be ending this year, to reassign those to teacher vacancies, and it would amount to no savings nor no additional monies being added to the budget. The next position we have is a secondary teacher for the PTEC program. Again, this is currently funded by another grant that will be ending this year. And again, because we would use a vacancy, it would not cost the district anything, nor would we have any savings from that. The next position is another grant-funded position, the Data Fellow. Again, a grant that is ending. We would reassign to a district vacancy, again, resulting in no savings nor additional funds to the general fund. The next option we have is we have 3 assistant principal interns, again, that are currently being funded through a grant program that will be ending. And this option would be to reassign these to teacher vacancies or other district vacancies, again, resulting in no additional savings, but again, no additional funds being used for the general fund. The next positions we have are 3 help grant counselors, again, that are currently funded with a grant that will be ending, but the district will be adding those to the general fund. So it would be an additional cost of $110,451. The next position is a Title I coordinator. This position would be a reassignment to a district vacancy. Again, it would result in no savings, but no added expenses to the general fund. The next position, again, is for an ID recruitment clerk. Again, this position will be reassigned to a district vacancy. It's currently funded through a grant, so resulting in no additional savings, but also no additional expenses to the general fund. And then this last option is a new option that we have added for this budget workshop, and that would be related to the 3 assistant principal interns that I mentioned earlier. This option would be to have them serve half time as in an administrative assignment and half the time in a teacher vacancy, and that would add $114,809 to the current district fund budget. Currently, we have none of these selected for today's budget workshop. If we were to select all of these, it would result in a savings to the district of $1,661,919.
Before we go on, could we ask some questions here? Okay, we are transferring one LSSP funded by general fund to a federal grant. What federal grant are we talking about?
Special education.
The special ed, the IDEA B.
Okay. And that special ed grant is good for how many years?
That's an entitlement, sir. We get that every year. It doesn't run out. It's like Title I, but it's part of that group of grants.
So why haven't been doing that for, I mean, if it's a grant that is annual, she serves special ed students.
Overall, sir, the special education services always run out of money. There really hasn't been a whole lot of room available in that grant. We think that through the oversight that we've had over the past year, that there would be room and that we could be able to manage that. But in the past, it just hasn't. As a matter of fact, Amy, do you have anywhere attainable the amount of money that we've supplemented the special education department payroll?
No, not with me.
There's plenty of positions that are funded with local funds from for the special education department. We're just trying to tighten the belt as much as possible to create savings because the deficit is where it's at.
So in regard to the update, are these monitors like student monitors that we used to shadow students? Is that the number of?
There is a lot of that happening, sir, and we started to tighten the belt in terms of aides and all of those positions. And I shared something in the board update with y'all this weekend. But the monitors, what we call the CNAs, the critical needs aides, for the most part, Ms. Childress funds these. Amy, I won't say charge, but correct me.
No, it is the general fund special ed allotment that we do get, and it's about almost close to $1 million.
Okay. Now, on the interns, we have some people that we selected last year that were under emergency certification. So could you go back to that number of the money that is going to save if we have half a day?
Yes, sir. If you do the half-day administrative assignment, half-day teacher vacancy,
Yes.
We would be adding $114,809 to the budget.
Dr. Rios?
Their salary was paid by a grant this past year, Mr. Mesa, and we definitely want to continue to foster their development because they were selected. They did go through a grant. Now our commitment ended or will end at the end of this year. Part of the grant indicated that the district would do what it could to place them in vacancies. As far as saying that we would give them priority because of the program they had gone through. It doesn't say how much money they need to make. It just says that we would give them priority. For example, if we identify AP vacancies, we can do exactly for them what we did for the counselors. When we placed the counselors on campus, we gave them half their pay raise and then the other half when they became fully certified. We could do something like that, but of course I would have to identify vacancies, and that is possible. But if that isn't possible and we want to continue to foster their development, then we could do like a half-day teaching assignment and a half-day intern. It's up there along with all the other options.
Okay, but in the event that the ones that that did not get certified, or not interns, but emergency certified personnel that work under a principal, either assistant principal, if they take a vacancy, that will be a savings for us.
It won't be a savings because, just to clarify, we have, I believe, 4 principals that are on waivers. And their program gives them 2 years to get certified. All but one are at the end of the 2 years. So I will have 1 AP vacancy because their 2 years have expired. The other 3 still have 1 more year to go.
There's 3.
I'm sorry, correct, yes, sir, I'm sorry. The other 3 still have 1 more year to go, but there is 1 that's a vacancy. Plus, I foresee that there's gonna be some movement in the district, that there always is. So this option may not even be necessary. We just have to account for how much things would cost if we went in that direction. I really, at this point, I really don't foresee that as being a vacancy. There's some personnel items that developed, but it is an option.
But my question again, wouldn't we save 1 personnel administrative position if one of these interns would take, even if it's half a day or full day, if that person cannot complete?
It is possible, sir.
So that would be a savings.
Well, if you look at the area above Ms. Childers, where we said the 3 interns grant was expiring, there isn't a dollar amount to that. It wouldn't be a savings unless I placed them. It wouldn't be a savings at all. Even if they took a vacancy, it's just a wash. I'm not either I'm not understanding it, which is possible, or I'm not explaining it. But if we took an intern to take the position of a principal who didn't finish or assistant principal who didn't finish their certification, it's a wash because right now they're being paid by a grant. Their salary is being paid by a grant. So they're just assuming a salary we already have that's paid locally.
No, I'm not talking about the grant. I'm talking about someone that is funded with general funds
Yes, sir.
that won't be there anymore.
Correct.
And we hire one of the interns.
Correct.
She will get paid from the general fund,
Correct. Because the grant has expired.
half a day.
It'd be half a day, but the campus would need a full day assistant principal at that point.
So then you would place 1 full-time and 1 half-time?
No, sir. Once they're either all going to be full-time or they're all going to be half-time.
I don't, can I say something? Mr.
Question.
That's just half day being an assistant principal and half day being a teacher does not settle well with me at all. There's a lot that goes on. I don't know how we would even, offer that.
Yeah. Can I explain?
Yes,
Okay, so that model there they're still being interns. So let's say that you and Ms. Webb were two of the interns. Okay? I would place y'all at the same campus. And this is just to continue to provide for the development.
Right.
So you two would be placed at the same campus. Ms. Webb is good at reading. So she would teach the ELA block, ELA and social studies. You're good at math. So you would be team teaching a class. Okay? And then you would teach the math and science.
Okay,
So when she's in the classroom with the same 22 students,
right,
you would be working as an intern, in addition to the AP that's already there. So you would just be extra help just to continue to foster your development as a principal or assistant principal. That's why it's an expense. That's why it's not a savings. Because you're in addition to Mr. Galindo is the principal. I'm his assistant principal. You two are just interns like you are right now, but now you're at the same campus. Team teaching so that you can have half a day as an intern. That's why it's an added expense in that model. But honestly, with some staffing changes that have happened, I don't see that as being necessary so far. But it is an option in case everything else doesn't work out. It was up there because I was asked.
I can see the benefit of leadership, you know, as an assistant principal, so they can finish their certification. You know, I see the good part of that. But I thought we'd be saving some money there.
No, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Orfeld.
So on our workbook, it of course didn't have the AP interns split out at 114, so it gave us a 1.7 million something there, and then so I went in and added it right now, and it drops it to that number of. I'm getting old. I can't see. 1.661, right?
Yes.
Okay, I get 1.662, but so I don't. That's why I teach history and government. How'd it go down from 1.7 to 1.6 if we're adding in the monies?
Because the 1.7 was savings we would have. This would be adding to the fund, so it goes the other. The 1.7 was savings. This would not be adding to the savings. It would be additional funds we would be expensing. So that's why the savings went from 1.7 to 1.6.
Okay, so if I selected yes, that adds. Okay, I don't. I'll figure it out.
Well, right now, Mr. Overfelt, it's all everything is no, so it's just summing it up for you. If you go in there and
Start clicking yes.
yes, then it changes inclusive of the one that you selected. I'm
Okay.
sorry, inclusive of the AP entrance, but the AP entrance, if you click yes, actually it's not going to change anything because it's already accounted for there in the end for that one. But all the other ones, if you click them, it'll start changing it.
Okay. The secondary P-TECH, the only question I had on that is, you said right now it's just a wash. Is that part of that new rollout that we did this year for the P-TECH middle school?
Yes, sir. The grant ends, but the position isn't going to end. We're going to absorb that through a vacancy.
Okay.
That's why there's no savings to it.
Okay. I figured. I just wanted to get clarification on it. And again, going back to kind of what Mr. Mesa was alluding to, the different APs that are currently employed by us, not on the grant side, but employed by us, being paid with district funds, who are on temporary or emergency certifications and stuff. If they're unable to pass and those emergency certifications are revoked and we keep the interns in the split position, will those interns automatically be first on the list to interview and move up, or are we gonna are we gonna go to TEA and ask for more extension on the emergency certification for those who are already in there? So if the APs certify out, I mean, the interns are certified out, but their stuff expires, they couldn't get certified in time.
This year, it's not, I shouldn't say it's not possible, everything's possible, but when we applied for a waiver for the APs that we did, some were already along the way finishing their coursework, so we knew it was gonna be a one-year commitment. And there are some that finished it really fast. And we contacted all of the assistant principals that were on the waiver to make sure that they were progressing. The waiver is a one-year waiver, but that's because you apply every year for the waiver like we do everywhere else. But their certification program is a two-year program. So it's either July to July or November to November, whatever month we hired them. So out of the APs that are remaining to not be certified, we have 4 of them, okay? 3 of them are just gonna finish their first year. 1 of them has already finished their second year. So 1 of them is going to be reassigned somewhere. And that is a position for 1 of the interns. That means that I have 2 other interns to place. There was some resignations. That's going to create other movement, and that's going to make room for 1 more of the interns.
Okay.
And because we committed to giving them priority, we'll come up with an assignment. It won't be at the full pay, because if it's at the full pay, then we should really open it up and just have everybody interview. But they are going to have an assignment, and therefore that may not be necessary if there was a commitment from all of us to continue that development. It'll just work out because of vacancies. But should it not work out, well then, that is an option. But I trust that it's going to work out.
Okay. When we're looking at the librarians and the fine arts and music there, and it talks about reassigning into the teacher vacancies. Is there right now enough, is there 1 teacher opening on each campus to absorb that, or is it going to be like, if it went through, like some 2 or 3 librarians may end up at 1 campus, or something to that effect?
A few weeks ago, Mr. Overfeld, I asked the principals to not interview and not hire, so that wouldn't happen. I also told them that they could not transfer teachers from 1 campus to another. In the past, we've said, if teachers want to transfer, then you can through, I think I've done it through the 2nd week of June. I jokingly tell them, if you're going to rob from each other, you have to do it, by the 2nd week in June, so that they have ample time to fill their vacancies. This year, I said that there were no transfers going to be allowed, because should we have to place somebody, I don't want to have 1 campus have to, take a disproportionate amount of people reassigned to the campus. So right now, for the most part, in the last review that Sandra Hernandez and I did, I believe there was room at every campus except 1. But we're waiting to see where we go with this. If we don't move on it, then I need to let the principal start interviewing. If we do move on it, then we have to do those reassignment letters. But right now, there's room. I'm sorry, it was a long answer to a very simple question.
Okay. I guess the other ugly question to that is, who becomes in charge of the libraries and runs the libraries if we have to go this route?
That's the way it was before, sir. It's the administration and the resource or instructional aid.
So instructional aid or resource aid?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty.
I have to ask this question because the whole state of Texas is having issues with, again, revenue. But if and when the 89th legislative session begins in January and money is allotted, is there a priority to make sure that we reinstate these people that might be reassigned somewhere else?
That's only partial, Mr. Mesa. The priority would be with the teacher positions, which would be the program that this team of 8 would decide to bring back. So would it be, if the board, I shouldn't put it on the board. If we move forward with these budget reductions, the first 2 would be the librarians and then the fine arts program. Then we would decide which one we brought first, one or the other. I mean, we might add up the years of tenure, and whoever has the average highest tenure would bring back first. That's one option. But I think that in terms of the administrators, that would be a distant second in terms of bringing them back. As much as, especially with the hard year we had last year at Del Rio Middle School, I know that this year has been a big relief, but maybe having 2 administrators there definitely would not be the first option of bringing them back. I think a few of us were principals there with 3 APs, and it worked out just fine. So the teacher positions, yes. Which one would be first? Which one would be second? I couldn't tell you right now, but the commitment would be that as soon as we balance the budget and we saw that there was some excess capital there, our goal would be to have the staffing pattern that we had this year.
Anyone else? Ms. Webb?
I have a comment regarding the assistant principals. Because the ones that are in the program right now that the grant has ended, even if we give them the opportunity and the district pays for the second year, they still have to be certified before they're hired as assistant principals. So they still have to pass that exam as well. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, because I keep hearing that these people are promised, I don't know who's promising them what. To me, they're given an opportunity to take some classes, to move to the next level when a position becomes available, if they are completely certified. Yes, I know that last year we hired some people based on the assumption that they would complete and pass their certification and be completely certified within a year. So I don't want these interns to think that because I took these classes, I'm automatically promised a position unless they're completely certified and there is a vacancy opening. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, ma'am, that holds true for everybody. The interns were not promised a job, and if they feel that they were, then I'd like to know who promised them the job, because that's just not what the grant says. You know, we are supposed to put them in a position of leadership the second year, but there's different forms of a position of leadership. But the grant also did say that we would prioritize their development in the second year, and that's why, you know, in the past, the district has had interns acting as assistant principals. So if there was a vacancy, we could put them in that spot, not at the pay rate of a principal, just like the help counselors didn't start out at the pay rate of a counselor, but then once they were certified, we did give them that pay. It would be the same thing here. If there's vacancies, and at this point, I do believe that there's 2 vacancies, and there's probably gonna be 2 more through movement.
I think
Thank you,
there's
sir.
one correction though, because it wasn't a 1-year commitment, it was a 2-year, correct?
The grant is for 1 year. Our development it is a 2-year commitment, but the second year does not have to be as an AP. It has to be in a leadership position.
Yes. I just want to make sure they continue with their certification, because that was the intent from the very beginning. We did not have applicants, certified applicants
Right.
for vacancies. Okay, we can go on.
The next tab I have, it has been updated. It is for our health insurance. So based on the amounts that we received at the insurance committee meeting last week, we have updated our funding planning amount. So the first option we have would be to continue the self-funded only plan. The district currently pays $640.01 a month per employee. The district would decrease that amount to $460.67 a month per employee. And that would begin in January, would be that decrease. And that would be a savings to the district of $854,122. The second option we have is to continue the self-funded plan through the first 6 months of the fiscal year, then change over to a third-party Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. And again, the district would continue the $640.01 for the first 6 months through December of 2024. Then the district contribution would decrease to the $460.67 a month per employee. Again, this second plan would also generate a savings of $854,122 to the district. This is not the TRS active plan. This would be a separate third-party Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. Currently, the option we have selected is option 2, where we would continue on the self-funded for the first 6 months and then move over to the Blue Cross Blue Shield third-party plan with the savings of the $854,122. The next tab we have is the employee travel. Again, these are different workbooks. We took a look at different personnel departments. This is not local travel. It would be to conferences, things like that. Again, currently they're all marked no, but if you were to choose any, if we were to choose all of them, it would be a savings to the district of $92,663. The next tab is in regards to student travel. Again, this would be for out-of-town trips for more than 1 day. So for weekend tournaments and things like that. If we were to select these, it would generate a savings of around $135,602. Again, currently, we do not have any selected. The next tab we have is for our sustainability plan. This one is for our operations. The items we have on the list are the Garfield Elementary HVAC repairs and replacement, estimated cost of about $100,000. The next one would be HVAC repairs or replacement at the annex buildings with an estimated cost of $30,000. The next project we have is the HVAC repairs or replacement at the Student Performance Center with an estimated cost of $75,000. Those are all options we currently have marked yes and are part of this current budget presentation. The other items we have on the list that you could choose from are the Del Rio High School Stadium to replace the stadium lights. Would be an estimated cost of $810,000. Furniture replacement at San Felipe Memorial Middle School would be an estimated cost of $60,000. Asphalt replacement at the district warehouse would be $100,000. Interior painting at Garfield Elementary would be an estimated cost of $120,000. Interior painting at Lamar Elementary would be an estimated cost of $90,000. Exterior painting at Buena Vista Elementary would be a cost of $60,000. Exterior painting at Lamar Elementary would be an estimated cost of $55,000. The purchase of service vehicles for the maintenance department would be an estimated cost of $200,000. Roof repairs at the Del Rio High School would be an estimated cost of $375,000. Fencing at the San Felipe Memorial Middle School would be an estimated cost of $189,240. Fencing at the Blended Academy would be an estimated cost of $143,070. And fencing at Buena Vista Elementary would be an estimated cost of $309,150. Again, for this presentation and these planning purposes, we currently just have the HVAC repairs selected as yes. Next items I have are the technology sustainability items. First item I have is the HVAC for the server room at an estimated cost of $15,000, and we do currently have that item selected. The next item would be used department service trucks in the amount of $60,000, and we are currently not including that as part of the budget. And then the third item I have is E-rate funding, which is our 20% contribution for projects that would, our estimated cost would be $60,000. And again, we do currently have that selected as part of the budget planning. The next tab in the workbook is our committed projects. And these are projects that we have currently have committed for 23-24, and this would be to select whether or not we will continue those projects for 24-25. The first project we have is the Cody Wardlaw Gym renovation. It would be a commitment of $1,198,764. The next item we have is the Del Rio Life Skills roadway or driveway. It would be a commitment of $437,533. The next item is the Del Rio Middle School parking lot with an estimated cost of $1,105,000. The next item we have is the remodel North Heights to Cardwell. To complete that process would be a cost of $1,419,445. And then the last item I have is the retention pond or the old Garfield roadway at a cost of $80,000. We currently have selected to continue the Cody Wardlaw Gym renovation and the Del Rio Middle School parking lot. All right. So that brings us to our total budget in the general fund. To begin with our revenue, we are currently using a tax rate of 0.7509 to help estimate our revenue. So our local revenue is made up of our tax collections, which we're estimating at $20,759,197. Our tax collections principal and interest of delinquent tax collections, estimated revenue of $470,000. We have estimated revenue, tuition, and fees, which is made up of driver's ed, summer school, and prior year's rebates. we have an estimated revenue of $10,000. Other local revenue, which includes our rental contract, facility rentals, any type of insurance payments that we receive, any type of current year rebates, refunds, and then we also currently are receiving income for the scoreboard. So we're estimating that revenue at $180,000. We have estimated revenue of interest earnings of $750,000. We have estimated co-curricular activity, which is made up of our athletic gate sales, as well as what we charge for our transportation to use the yellow buses and the vans, of $420,000. And then we have estimated revenue for intermediate sources, which comes from the city of Del Rio. It's a payment they call in lieu of taxes, for an estimated amount of $70,000. So our total local revenue is estimated to be $22,659,197. Our state funding is estimated to be $78,444,506. This is made up of our foundation payments from the state, as well as the TRS on behalf revenue that I have to recognize for the payments that the state makes on behalf of us to the TRS plan. And just a side note, the two items in green, I do receive, this was revenue that is calculated. I get the assistance of our revenue consultant, Smoke Casey, so they also helped me provide these numbers. And then our federal sources revenue, our indirect cost revenue, we're estimating at $350,000. Our SHARS estimated revenue is $500,000. Our revenue from impact aid, we're estimating at $225,000. And our miscellaneous federal revenue, which is from our the Air Force, the government reimburses us for a part of our junior ROTC, and then we also, it's our E-rate money that we get from the federal government. So a total federal sources of $1,200,000 for a total projected revenue of $102,303,703. On our expenditure side, we currently are looking at wages and benefits of $77,538,067. Our current district health insurance contribution is $8,831,851. For substitute, extra duty, and tutorial pay, we're budgeting $1,376,200. Our reduction to our health insurance contribution is $854,122. Our campus budgets are $781,779. Our departmental budgets are $7,103,929. Our operation departments are $4,666,310. Our state programs are $4,064,738. Student program budgets are $1,863,988. Our energy savings payment is $1,330,600. And our sustainability is $280,000. for a projected expenditure total of $106,983,340, which brings us to an updated projected deficit of $4,679,637.
Dr. Riz?
Ms. Childress, just for clarification, once Mo Casey advised us on the funding tables, did our projected revenue increase?
Yeah. Yes, sir, it increased to about $1 million.
Okay, and just, I just want to share with the board that earlier in our when we were talking about the deficit, because the deficit does appear to be smaller now, but I had mentioned that we were gonna gain about $1 million once the tables and the pennies and the golden pennies and silver pennies lined up. The other thing that helped us was that the insurance that we're quoting now is just slightly less expensive than the TRS active plan. And I believe it was how much per employee, ma'am?
It was $479 per employee is what we had planned originally, and now it's $460 per employee.
So about $20 per month per employee, $19 to be exact. So the projections that we had mentioned earlier, this is all part of it. Now Mo Casey has reviewed it, and it's right in line with what we had projected. But that still leaves us a deficit of, say it again, ma'am?
$4,679,637.
Okay, and what's our fund balance, our unassigned fund balance?
My estimated ending balance for this year is $23,976,152. I have for 24-25, that would leave us with a little over $3.9 million in the over 75 days
So,
unassigned.
so the part where we're at, again, is that the fund balance that we would have left over, we'd have a deficit of over 4 million and an estimated excess fund balance of under 4 million. So for the following year, there would not be enough to cover the expense, plus the insurance was a ceiling of 9.5% increase.
Yes, sir.
So a 9.5% increase comes out to roughly 750,000.
Yes, sir.
That our expenses would increase. Now, I'm hoping the state gives us money after the biennium, the legislature. I just really think that it's going to be money for salaries, because if we don't give a raise this year, then we absolutely have to find a way to give a raise the following year. But that's just our studied projections.
Okay, when we're down to the bone section, have we eliminated all charters, charter buses?
Mr. Mesa, when we fund trips, we mainly fund them using our school transportation. If the organization wants to take charters, then they pay extra for the charters. Our contribution is just what we would have paid for a yellow bus. Now, when they have to travel during the day and we can't afford to have buses out, mainly because we don't have drivers, then in those conditions, we do say, okay, we have to take a charter, because you know, if somebody is participating somewhere on a Friday and we need transportation, we can't have kids being dropped off at 7:30 in the evening, which sometimes happens anyway. I'm not saying it doesn't, but we do try to avoid that.
Because when we're cutting the deficit, to me, it means no guest speaker at convocation, saving wherever we can. Maintenance, move to Cardwell, what used to be the old Cardwell. We still have the Stephen F. Austin.
Yes, sir, but we are prepping Cardwell because the goal is to use the old Cardwell both for food service and for maintenance. So yes, that is part of the plan, but we just have to do it in stride.
Well, I'm trying to find every penny available, and to me, you know, those things would be in line with cutting. I don't know if we have a contract with guest speaker for convocation, but we need to do away with that. Just all the spending that we can. But, Ms. Webb?
Yes, sir. Thank you. In looking at the committed funds, I know that at our last meeting, our budget meeting, we discussed not using committed funds for the Cody Ward law. And I'm in favor of not using over $1 million for committed funds for Cody Ward law at this time.
Yeah.
And I know it was mentioned
It's a
also.
choice that we're gonna have when we submit our input.
So,
But, and it might be that we lose, you know, the 1.2 from the city. But,
but
I mean, Cody Wardlaw has been there, and I think we have to prioritize.
so
And if anybody else has ideas, I mean, I sure would like to entertain them, because, Dr. Rios, we're not gonna make a commitment until
next month.
next month.
For Cody Warlaw, yes, sir.
Well, I'm saying the overall budget.
Yes, sir, for the overall budget, we don't.
When
You
we
don't
have,
want-
I was looking at our agenda here, we have reorganization that we're gonna approve tonight. What does that entail?
We're gonna discuss in closed session, the reorganization at different levels. And then, the board can choose to come out and take action, or can, table it.
Because I, as a board member, would like to have this in the open. I wouldn't want to do anything in executive session. I would much rather for the audience to hear what each and every one of us has to say and you know, agree. But I don't know how.
Well,
Anybody else? Mr. Orfeld?
Ms.
Well,
Becky,
Amy?
No, Ms. Chavez.
Ms. Chavez?
No, I was just gonna say that there seems to be that we need more discussion to this, to everything that has been presented. And though we're not gonna be making a final until next month, do I understand correctly there? As far as some of the items, I would like to have more time to discuss this in closed session. Some of the items here, for example.
Yes, yeah, but we have an action item when we come.
Yes, I know that.
well, we can
I
always
still
table
would
it.
like
So
to,
that-
That can be-
to maybe,
Well, we can have a discussion, but I'm saying, I wouldn't like to take a vote if nobody knows what we discussed up there. I'd like to be transparent. It's up to you, Mr. Orfeld.
Ever since day one, when we started looking at this, it's been a very, very difficult, very emotional roller coaster that we've been on. There is, as board members, and I don't envy Mr. Alvarez coming in, you know, at the kind of the tail end of it, and having to, you know, having to also make some decisions on some stuff. But when we talk discussion, I think there probably needs to be a very difficult, if not ugly, discussion on what happens if we don't do some of these things. We've talked about it in other settings there, and if we want to go down the road of transparency, I think we need to talk about this as well. You know, let's say that that we absolutely dug in on and said no, we don't want to see the art setting messed with at all. We don't want to see librarians that messed with it at all. And yes, we have to recognize that is ultimately the superintendent's call because that is the power delegated to him by, by contract and by the Board of Trustees. We have, the 7 of us have 1 employee, and we hire that employee to manage the day-to-day operations of the district. And, you know, if we went down the road of saying, no, we don't want that, and the superintendent said, fine, that's what y'all want, we're not going to change anything, and we take a $4 million, $5 million deficit, it needs to be known that if the legislature does not come through with anything significant, that it will be worse this time next year. It will be worse this time next year. I want y'all to know that who are sitting in the crowd. I want y'all to know that who are watching on the video. And this time around, yeah, there would be changes and reassignments, but the employment will be there. If we don't do it, as unpopular as it sounds, and I'm not advocating it, I'm just playing devil's advocate right now, is the legislature could go in and could give, you know, the district a couple million, but it's not going to make up for what we've lost over the last couple of years, and especially this year without funding. So we take that $4 million, $5 million deficit and we roll it into next year with no changes, and what goes in and happens, like I said, is it gets uglier next year when it comes time for cuts, to the point of, and tell me if I'm wrong, because this is what I've understood in conversations, is if it gets ugly next year, because we didn't do anything this year, it's not reassignments we're looking at, it's people will no longer have jobs. We will have to take those very drastic, we will have to start taking those very drastic steps there. That's why I say it could get much uglier, and I want everyone to know that it could get a whole lot worse if something doesn't happen this go around, as painful as that would be. As painful it is to have to give up what you love, whether it's being a full-time librarian or art and music, and having to go back into the classroom. You know, at least it's still a form of employment, whereas if we didn't do anything, like I said, there's a very real chance next year that it would have to be entirely eliminated. And if we get to that point, that's where we're messing with people's livelihoods entirely, of not having a paycheck and stuff. So if we're going to have a discussion, I think that very ugly part of it needs to be talked about as well. And if I've gotten anything wrong, you know, please correct me. But that's what I've gathered from our discussions that we've had over time, is we can go down this road and it lowers the deficit and people are able to still keep employment. But if we don't, the 25-26 budget year could be very, very bad. The 27-28 budget year could go in and be very bad as well. And that's also an important reminder to when you vote in November as well for state office and different things like that, as to who supports public education and who doesn't. But I think that part needed to be said, and I'm sorry if I come across as the bad guy for saying it, but it needs to, and I've had these conversations one-on-one with some individuals, and they've said, well, maybe that needs to be said in public, and that way everyone kind of understands it. So I've said it in public. there, and if anyone wants to add into that, I welcome that side of the discussion, because it could get very worse. It could get much worse than what it is now. Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Orfeld. Becky? Ms. Davis?
I was just gonna say that,
Becky, could you get the mic closer, please?
yes, that I totally agree with what Mr. Overfelt has just stated. We have looked at all the options, and we're still, and that's why I said it's still some of it in conversation, but the bottom line is that there has to be some changes, and it's not gonna be a happy one for some, but also the thing is we're trying to get everyone to stay and not lose their job, you know, their where they are at, even though it might be at a different position, but there will still be a paycheck at the end of the month. So I totally agree with Mr. Overfeld and what he has just stated, and I hope everybody understands that sometimes changes have to be done, and sometimes they're not popular, but sometimes it is what it is. And yes, if we don't choose or go a different route, it could be that next year it will not be as nice, or not nice, but it will be a very difficult situation and decisions that would have to be made next year. So I'm just gonna say I agree with his statement.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Anybody else? Ms. Webb?
What Mr. Overfeld has stated, those are things that have been happening throughout the state at many, many districts. And I applaud the fact that there was a insurance committee that looked at the different insurances, because I will tell you that throughout the time that I have been in this district, 42 years in education plus serving on the board, the best insurance that we've had was Campton. Best insurance ever was Campton. The worst one that we were looking at was TRS Active Care. And I know some individuals, some teachers that have TRS Active Care in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And they will tell you the same thing. Once they show that insurance card with TRS on it, doctors don't want to take it. So I applaud Mr. Mesa for making that statement and for having us look at other options. And I know the employees will have to pay some this coming year. I wish we could keep what we have, but unfortunately we can't. But we are looking for the best interest of everyone, so people don't have to pay unless they want to go a step higher with your deductible or lower deductible. But the sad thing is that people throughout districts, not people, districts throughout the state are letting go of employees. And that's not what we want to do. We don't want to let anybody go. And that is happening. That's happening throughout the state. And like Mr. Overfeld alluded to, you have to think of who you're going to be voting for. Because right now, I'm sorry, I don't think that there's people in Austin right now that really care about public education. And that's the bottom line. But we are looking as a board, what can we do to maintain and keep our heads above water? I don't like to be underwater. I don't know how to swim, so I don't like water. But the fact remains that we are looking at everything possible to do what we can for our district. And our staff, teachers, custodians, everybody, that's our #1 priority, to make sure that everybody maintains a job. And it's not an easy one. And that's why when we have discussions, those are the things that we bring up and we look at. Where are we? And where are we in comparison to everybody else? So.
Okay, thank you very much. And I just want to reiterate, we do have to make some drastic changes. The only thing is, I want to use the available time that we have. Our deadline is June 30th. We have to make a decision before then, and I'd like to generate some more ideas, because not too long ago, we were going to go ahead with Cody Wardlaw, and we didn't say anything about administrators at middle school, and so we can bring that deficit down. 4 million is nothing like 60 million that other districts are having. Cypress, Fairbanks, Houston ISD, I mean, $60 million deficit. Yes, there didn't go a lot of employees, but I think we still have time to ask questions because, again, why do we have to pay a guest speaker $20,000, for convocation if we can save that? I just would like to, again, have those discussions and continue. I don't mind a discussion in executive session. We are going to have to make a decision about reorganization, but I think we can still bring that deficit down a little further down. Because we have buildings, and as I mentioned, we have maintenance at Stephen F. Austin. Cardwell, part of it is being utilized. We could have some savings in all kinds of ways, like electricity and utilities and all kinds of things, because we can save money by having one building instead of two. And those are ideas that, I want to share, and I want to hear from other individuals' ideas about where else we can cut before we make this drastic decision. And that's all. We won't have to come and take a vote. Not tonight. Well, unless the board does. There is an item to reconvene and take action, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it's up to the board, not up to me. Okay. We'll go on. Amy?
Yes, sir. So I just have one more item. As part of our budget adoption process, we do have to provide the yearly notice of our public meeting to discuss the budget and the proposed tax rate. We have that scheduled to occur on June 17th as part of our regular scheduled board meeting. So this will go in we have to post it in the newspaper. It will go in the Uvalde newspaper this Sunday. It'll also be posted on our website as well as the 8:30 Times. And this is, again, it's just required that we notify the public of the public hearing that's scheduled for June 17th.
Okay. Any questions? Then we'll adjourn the workshop. There's any question?
No, I was gonna say.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. So we'll adjourn the workshop here and go into our regular session. We do have a couple of citizens that have signed up to speak under citizens' comments. We'll allow you 3 minutes. We'll go with the first person. Topic is music and art programs. We have Carrie de la Rosa. She's a resident of Del Rio and retired teacher.
Hi, good evening. I empathize with you. I'm looking at the monumental task before you, and I'll be praying that you all make the right decisions. I am I'm a retired elementary music teacher, and I have taught piano lessons in my home studio 42 years. But before that, I started my career as a 3rd, 4th, 5th grade elementary teacher. My master's thesis, I am a reading specialist. My master's thesis I was trying to answer that question, is music and art all that important? Do we need them full time? And my research, that's what I'd like to talk a little bit about, not my opinion. The research I went through, and all research has shown that when school districts have full-time music and art teachers, they're there at their campus, elementary, 9 months, that the kids, they score better academically, like end of course tests. They score better on academic, on standardized tests as well, such as STAR and SATs, things like that. And so, I know you're thinking to yourself, come on, there's going to be elementary music, there's going to be elementary art semester-wise, right? Once, for example, one teacher might teach music at Chavira one semester, and the the next semester at another campus. But the studies are very, very convincing. I'll just read one. A UCLA analysis of a U.S. Department of Education database tracking more than 25,000 students over a 10-year period shows that students involved in music generally tested higher in reading proficiency exams and standardized tests than those who had no musical involvement. Because, you know, certain districts, they offer very little, or they do what we've been proposing to do is one semester here, one semester there. In the mid-'80s, my children were little, and they'd come home and they'd say, gosh, we're not doing hardly any music. So there was a similar program. I talked to a couple of retired music teachers, Wilbreen Buenteo and Mary Simone. They remember that time period. And they're very elderly, and they're like, Carrie, it just didn't work. I go, well, yeah, but give me specifics. You know, why didn't it work? The kids weren't meeting success, and it dissolved. And, you know, I'm concerned because if all this research points to the fact that our students do better academically, now why? Why? I mean, it's just music and art, you know. Brain research shows that music education, art education, starting with the little kiddos, they're using both sides of their brain. I mean, the scientists have actually seen this on images. You and I, we read, we write, but we're using that logical left brain, you know, and creativity is more over here. Very few activities will really have those synapses firing within the whole brain. Now, you all think we just sit there. I'm going to talk about music just because I'm a music teacher, but we teach reading. Let me tell you how. Am I already at 3 minutes? Okay.
Your time is up.
Okay, I apologize. Thank you for listening to me, and I would ask you just reconsider that proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person that signed up, we have Mariana Davis, Music and Art Program. She is a parent.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for this meeting, and thank you for letting us know and making us all aware of the situation. I was a student. I went to public schools, and it breaks my heart as a mother to see how much my son enjoys art. He loves drawing. He loves music, and it makes me sad. It really makes me sad. How many of you have children or grandkids? What do you do with their drawings when they bring it to you? I'm sure you put it on your fridge, and it's a reminder, you know? He tells me, my son tells me, I love art, Mom. And he tells me, I'm gonna be an artist when I grow up. And it breaks my heart to know that that's gonna be taken away from him. Having to consider taking him from public school to a private school so that he can have access to those resources when those resources should be there for them, you know? It breaks my heart, and I just come here to humbly ask you to reconsider those changes, because a lot of kids communicate through drawing and music, and I think it really plays a big impact in their lives, and it helps their brain development. So I want to thank you for listening to me, and I would hope that you would reconsider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we go on to consent agenda. We have item F1, consideration to approve purchase order over $25,000 and the amount not to exceed $95,000. Funding source, technology general funds, purchase of pre-owned vehicles for technology department. And item 2, consideration to approve purchase order over $25,000 with Weaver Technologies LLC in the amount of $35,000, and quote number 002602, funding source, technology general funds for cybersecurity attack. And those are the two items that we have under consent. Again, one action will approve both items. Are there any questions, anything that you would like to pull from the consent agenda? Any questions? Mr. Orfeld?
I know in the update on the pre-owned vehicles, it's because initially we could not find, or they could not supply the vehicle, and now we found someone else who can supply it. So these vehicles, when we look at the budget spreadsheet for next year, there was that line item for $60,000 for items or for vehicles. That was just going to be another set of vehicles?
No,
Or-
sir. This will take the place of that, so that would be removed for next year.
Okay, so then my question would be, we were gonna budget $60,000 for vehicles, but now we want $95,000 for vehicles. And I know it's a drop in the bucket, but $35,000.
Well, Mr. President, if I may, the reality is that the technology department wanted more vehicles for next year, and we were looking at buying newer vehicles. So what they put in for next year and what we negotiated down for this year, I know it seems like more money, but it's buying used vehicles, so we're able to buy more of them, and in counting the man hours that are used traveling from one campus to the next, this ends up being the best investment for long-range decreased costs on a daily basis. So there won't be that $60,000 for next year.
Okay.
Anyone else? And if I read that correctly, there was 5 vehicles? So the range was, at the last meeting, 15 to 19,000 each? That's 5.
But now there's less vehicles. There's only 4, correct? But they're at 22,000?
It's 4 in a car. So
4 in a car,
It's still
that's
under,
what
but
it is.
I couldn't get the truck, so
So it's 5 total.
it's the 5,
Okay.
it's still under the 95.
Okay. Anyone else with a question? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval. Motion made by Mr. Webb, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, the time is 7:23 p.m. We're going to go into closed session pursuant to policy 551.074 and 551.071. We'll be in discussion in executive. Any item needs to be approved. It will be approved when we reconvene into open session. We're now in closed session. Okay, the time is 8:47 p.m. We are reconvening to open session. No action was taken in executive session. We're down to item 20. Dr. Rios?
Board President Mesa, members of the board, it is the recommendation of the superintendent that the board reconvene during the week of June 3rd to finalize employee reorganization.
Okay. June 3rd, 6 p.m.?
Just that week, we'll set a time.
Okay. So you will send a notice? Okay. You've heard the administration made a motion, seconded by Mr. Galindo. All those in favor? Okay. Motion carries. We are going to have another meeting on June 3rd? Oh, the week of June 3rd. Okay. There being no other business on the agenda, is there a motion for adjournment? Motion made by Amy Haynes, seconded by Mr. Galindo. Those in favor? We are adjourned at 8:49 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and good night.